Well, good afternoon. And welcome to Activate Your Power Now here at Unity Southeast in Kansas City. I'm going to fix that, so if it's bothering you, I'll make sure that it comes down. We are in November, so our topic today, or our word for the day is elimination or release. So we are going to be having 5 magnificent speakers up here tonight, and they're going to talk to you and tell you and motivate you using the word release or elimination. But I don't want this to be a sit and get environment. So what I'm going to ask is that everybody stand up. And I'm going to ask you just for a moment to close your eyes, and I want you to think about what would I like to release right here and right now. Just going to give you a minute to find that. What do I want to release right here and right now? And when you have something pictured in your mind, I want you to raise a hand so I know that you're there. And if you don't find something, it's okay. It will come to you before this evening is over, so don't stress. But most of you have something. So I'm going to ask that you open your eyes. I'm going to ask you to imagine what that thing was. I'm going to imagine you to just let it be in the center of you just for a moment. Because here's the thing. In order to release something, you must know it. You must find it. You must give it what it needs, and then you must bless it and send it on its way. So for right now, I just want you to really get to know what is it that I am releasing right now. And I want you in your mind to say, I thank you for the purpose you served in me, but I no longer need you anymore. I no longer desire you anymore. I no longer want you anymore. And then when you think of what that is, I just want you to intentionally breathe in and allow that breath to go down and get that idea, that thing. And then I want you to breathe out intentionally. So it's going to sound and look like this. It's going to look like hold it and wrap whatever that is. And I'm going to have you just blow it out. Ready? Let's do that together. One more time. Breathe in. And breathe it out. And then the last thing I want you to do is I want you to wiggle and jiggle and just release any kind of tension that's in your body. Release anything that no longer serves you, and then you can go ahead and be seated. Yes. The power of release, the power of elimination. We talk often here at Unity Southeast about the release and the elimination, and what I always say is, today I'm going to ask you to let go of what was and let go of what will be, and simply land in this right here, right now moment. A moment where you can truly vibrate at the speed of love and move at the speed of intention. So today, while you are sitting here, I'm going to tell you that something miraculous is going to happen if you let it. Someone is going to take the stage today and they're going to give you a word or a concept or a phrase that if you choose to, you can grapple with, and it will change your life. That word might come from me. That word might come from one of our 5 speakers. That word might come from the person that's sitting next to you in a thought that they release while someone else is speaking. But if you are open and receptive to the possibility, your life can magically be changed today. But it's totally up to you. So how many of you guys would like your life to be magically changed today? So I want you to say, I am open and receptive.
I am open and receptive
to receive what is mine.
To receive what is mine.
Let go of anything that no longer serves me.
Let go of anything that no longer serves me.
Because a miracle is on its way.
Because a miracle is on its way.
I say a miracle is on its way because I know who our first speaker is tonight. I'm going to introduce to the stage someone that I've gotten to know very well over the last year to 2 years. Her name is Heather Davis. Heather Davis is a speaker who has spoke in so many environments so far. I had the chance of seeing her in St. Louis speaking. I know that she's been in towns like Houston, Texas. I know that she's been a speaker right here on this very stage. But I'm not even excited about all the places she's been. I'm more excited about all the places that she is going. She is a BTBY speaker. She is a child of God proudly. And I want to just invite her to the stage, but I want you to give her a warm welcome and say, I am ready for Heather Davis. Ready? 1, 2, 3. I am ready for Heather Davis.
Thanks, Randy. Okay, so my first question is, where are my planners? Who plans everything? So the rest of you people are all those fly by the seat of your pants, spontaneous people that we hear about? Great for you, great. So for me, I started planning in, my first memory is like 5th grade. How many of you girls had the notebook? At the back, I, heart, fill in the blank. Mrs., fill in the blank. Just me? Okay. Well, anyway, in 5th grade, I lived in Fort Madison, Iowa, and it was I heart Kirk Minke. Mrs. Kirk Minke. In the 2 years I lived in Iowa, I don't think Kirk Minke said hi to me once, or anything else for that matter. But in my mind in high school, we were gonna get married. We were gonna have 3 kids, 2 boys, 1 girl. They would all have blonde hair and blue eyes, and the boys would play baseball like their dad, and the girl would be a dancer like me. The only problem with that was in 7th grade, I found myself in Emporia, Kansas, going to school. And Kirk Minke became Tyson Krieger, Jason Doherty. You get the picture? So fast forward to high school, summer before junior year, someone got on my radar. And I thought, oh, back in school, on my notebook, I heart Jeff Becker. Mrs. Jeff Becker. Now the funny thing is we did get engaged my senior year, and so I was actually planning the life of the Beckers. Until I came home early one night from work, and Jeff Becker was packing up because he had gotten somebody else pregnant, and they were gonna go live the life that I had planned. So fast forward to last year, about this time, I had met the love of my life. We were getting ready to be engaged. I didn't know it yet, but we got engaged the day after Thanksgiving. And everything was great, right? Love of my life. He can't stop smiling. I can't stop smiling. I'm pinching myself every day thinking, this can't be my life. Like everything, all the things on my list, down to the 2 Harleys that he needed to own that he actually did. You see, my nickname is HD. Where's Chuck? Over there. HD stands for Heather Dawn. However, it also stands for Harley Davidson because that is the one place where I can clear my mind, release those things that I have struggles or the voices can stop. On the back of a Harley is where I have my happy place. Nice. So anyway, fast forward to that, we're planning our life. Everything is great. Everything is exactly how I always imagined it would be. And one day we're at Hobby Lobby, my favorite place. That's heaven, actually, if you didn't know. Hobby Lobby. That's what it looks like there. And we're getting all the stuff for the wedding on a Saturday. And the following Wednesday, he says, I don't want to do this. I'm moving to Tennessee and I'm going by myself. No reason, no logic, nothing. It was over. My world was crushed. My heart was broken. Everything blew up. So, I have another friend who knew my love for wind therapy. And so he came along, and for 3 months, we just rode the Harley, like everywhere, all the time. And then we decided we were gonna date. So that was July 4th, and everything was really good, adventure after adventure. Every weekend we were somewhere new, doing something different. I was living a life that I never dreamed of, and I thought, maybe this is it. Maybe this is why the other thing didn't work out, because we're always trying to come up with reasons, right? That didn't work because this is where I'm meant to be. So here we are. Everything's going well. We're at 4 months, been hanging out for a little over 6 months. And then all of a sudden, within a week, I lost my job. I lost my sister, who was my rock, my lighthouse, the beacon that always brought me back home when I was lost. I lost my car, and 2 weeks later, I lost my man. Because the thing was, when my life fell apart, it was too much for him. And the reason I now know, the reason my life fell apart is because I put everything else in front of what I was supposed to be doing. This. I was called to be a speaker. I was called to be a child of God. I hadn't been to church in weeks, months, almost a year. I kept saying it was really important to me, but when I would meet people that it wasn't important to them, it suddenly was no longer important to me. So what happened was I found myself jobless, sisterless, carless, and about to be homeless because my lease was about to be up and I had no job. Can't renew a lease without a job. Y'all, I was at rock bottom. The good thing about rock bottom is there's only one way to go.
Come on, girl.
So for 2 months now, I've been at rock bottom. But the thing is, I'm not staying there. Now, why do I tell you all these sad stories? It's not for sympathy, and I'm definitely not a victim. Here's the thing. Life never goes the way we plan. I can tell you from 5th grade until now, nothing has gone the way I planned. I did have 2 kids. Neither one of them have blonde hair. One has blue eyes. But neither one of them play baseball or any of the things I ever thought they would do. I thought she was going to be a dancer, and she was a volleyball star. So my point is, even at 24, she has already figured out life doesn't go the way you plan it. So here's the thing. Why do I tell you about all of these rock bottom stories? Because what you find at rock bottom is the power of release. A lot of people have already said I would have checked out by now. I don't know how you're still here. I don't know how you're not curled up in a ball somewhere. The reason I'm not is because I released it and I gave it to God. 2 months later, I have a place to live. I haven't been homeless one day. I have yet to starve, as you can tell. I do not have a car, but I'm working on it, and I now have a job that I've dreamed of for more than 2 years. Thank you, Brent. And I give all the glory to God because I gave it to him. I laid it at his feet. And I took a couple of days to mourn my sister, and then I released it. I took a couple of days to mourn the 2 lives I thought I was creating, and I released it. And then I took a couple of days to deal with the anger and the shame and the sadness I had about the decisions I had made to get me where I was. The power of release is so powerful, and I'll tell you why. Because when you release all of that out, it makes room for joy. And as Randy said, it's all about this moment. If you're worried about what's in the future, you can't control that. And control, it makes you have chaos and anxiety and all the bad things you don't want. So the thing is you have to release all of that to make room for the good stuff. And what I've learned over the last 2 months is that I have to be right here, in this moment. Nothing matters from the past, and nothing matters from the future. I can't control where I'm going. I have to trust that God will take me there. So my question to you today is, what's holding you back? What do you need to release? Are you full of anger or shame? They don't belong here. If you have anxiety, it's because you're trying to control the situation. Let it go. So I hope you guys can figure out what your release is. As Randy said, you make a choice and you let it go, and you can start tomorrow in a better place.
Yes.
Give it up one more time for Heather Davis. I love what you said about when you let go, when you release anger, when you release expectations, you make room for joy. And that resonated with me. And so I want to just allow that sentence to really resonate with all of us. So I want you to just imagine these words. I joyfully let go of. So you can say, I joyfully let go of anger, or I joyfully let go of expectation, or I joyfully let go of chaos, or I joyfully let go of wanting to be. I joyfully let go of whatever it is. I'm going to use fear. I joyfully let go of fear so I can allow the love of God to flow through me. I joyfully let go of anger so I can allow the love of God to flow through me. I think that is what Heather was trying to share with us today, is that, you know what, when we make room for joy, or we make room for love, or when we make room for life, or God, or truth, or understanding, or more importantly, when we make room for ourselves, we joyfully allow the love of God to flow through us. And I love that. So I want to bring up someone, when I say I joyfully let go, I want to bring up someone that I really don't know as well, but what I know is this: every time I interact with them, they bring joy into the room. You can't help but see them and know that good things are coming, or good things are being ready to follow when you just allow them in your circle. So today I want you to really say, I want to find a way to allow this person in my circle. And the way you can do that is by following her on Facebook, or connecting with her on social media, or more importantly, seeing her after this event and saying, girl, I want to know how I can be part of your life. Because here's what I'm going to tell you. I told you earlier that a miracle can happen tonight. And I truly feel like this individual is the maker of miracles. So I want to invite up to this stage so that you can witness the beauty, the love, the truth of Kenya Messer.
Thank you so much, Brandy, and thank you so much, Heather. You opened up beautifully. As Randy said, my name is Kenya Messer, also known, and you can find me as Kenya Crafts. And like the rest of the speakers here this evening, I'm here to talk about release. And so I am going to share with you all a story of how I feel release made a large difference in my life and taught me that release is necessary for growth, just like Heather was saying. So my story begins in November of 2019, so about 3 years ago exactly. It was Global Entrepreneur Week. If you don't know what Global Entrepreneur Week is, it is a week-long extravaganza for small businesses. It's actually happening next week. I encourage you to go to kcsourcelink.com to find out more information. Now, 3 years ago, we were at the Friday Mixer, and we were there, and we met some very interesting people, and several of us decided to go out for a drink afterwards. We were in the Vine District, so there were all kinds of amazing places to go. One of the men that we met that night turned out to be a professional life coach. And after watching an interaction between my husband and I, he gave us a bit of advice. He started talking about logic versus, and then he started also talking about roles. He talked about the divine masculine, and he talked about the divine feminine. And that the more that John accepted his role in the masculine, the more I could accept my role in the feminine, whatever that looked like for our particular relationship. So this was really eye-opening, and I don't know if anyone else has ever felt themselves have a new truth or an epiphany, or as you guys call it, an activation. When I have a new truth, or I feel like I am learning something new, I feel a rush of chemicals in my brain. I feel the neurons firing off. And so I knew that something was coming of this. So we spent the next couple of days kind of marinating over this, and as we discussed, we decided that we had never taken the time at the beginning of our relationship to even discuss all the possibilities. And so through this, John confessed to me that although he had never said anything because he did not want to deter me from my dream of being in corporate and having a career and going out and doing it, that his preference, his dream, was to really be the provider and have me stay at home and provide the house, the home that we really wanted, and for him to be able to spoil me and treat me in the way he feels I deserve. This was kind of a shock to me. I had to let this marinate. And part of it was because I had always decided that I was going to work outside the house. And let me give you a little bit of backstory as to why that is. My mother was bipolar, and she very rarely worked outside the home. And because of that, we very rarely had money. The $800 that my mom got from my dad between child support and alimony didn't go very far, even in the 80s. And so I watched her make herself beholden to one man after another and have that lead to abuse and all kinds of other things. And I made a decision when I was very young that I was going to have my career, I was going to have my own money, and I was never going to be a burden or beholden to anyone like that, ever. And so, in meeting this man and having these thoughts and these ideas, I realized that in my quest to prevent myself from becoming my mother, that I had limited my choices. I had never even allowed myself to consider that staying home and managing our household would be what I wanted to do. In fact, I had told myself over and over and over again that I would hate it. And now I was having to decide, would I hate it? I didn't know anymore. But when I had met my husband, I had these ideas, I was going to college, and again, he had bragged to all his friends about what a hard-working woman I was. And so it reinforced that idea that I needed to work outside the home to be a good partner to him in our relationship. And now I was learning that wasn't his desire. And so I had to release that. I had to release the notion that I was ever going to become my mother. Because I have made different choices. I am educated, and even if I am staying home and managing my household, I know that it's way differently than what she had taught me or demonstrated for me. So this is one very poignant story that I have in the course of my journey that I feel really exemplifies why release is so important for you to be the better you and grow. So I hope this helps someone this evening and you get activated too.
Oh my goodness, yeah, give it up one more time for Kenya. I am looking around the room, I don't see Brian, and so I'm going to just keep moving forward. And you'll hear me say sometimes from the stage, and I think it's a great example of release and elimination. I heard a phrase from a fellow once, and I've kept it with me my entire life, and he said to me, Randy, if things aren't adding up, maybe it's time to start subtracting. And he said it, and I said, okay, say that again. He's like, maybe when things aren't adding up, it's time to start subtracting. So here's what I want to just challenge you with. I want you to say, are things adding up in your life? Is everything adding up to exactly what you wanted it to be? And if it's not, sometimes the key isn't adding something on top of it. It's letting go of something that's no longer working or that never worked. I love Kenya's example of the fact that she had made this decision, whether consciously, subconsciously, or unconsciously, that there was a person she didn't want to be. And what she didn't realize is no matter how hard she tried, she would never be that person because she is divine and an original on her own. And so what she was doing was she's adding things to her life so that she wouldn't end up when really she just needed to subtract the way that she saw mom, or subtract the way that she imagined her life would be, or subtract the ideas of, if I go down this road, it's going to be wrong for me. Here's what I know. I know that when we surrender and we let go to the goodness of God or the goodness of the divine, or for some of you, for the understanding of love that is within each and every one of us, when you allow yourself to know that I have time enough, I have strength enough, I have wisdom enough, and I have good enough in my life, that I don't need to worry about anything that the outside world can give me, because I am fully equipped with everything I need on the inside. And so that is something that gives me solace. That is something that brings me joy, and that is something that I walk through life with. When life isn't adding up, maybe it's time to start subtracting. Our next speaker, I'm grateful to call her my friend. I'm grateful to call her my confidant. I'm grateful to call her my cheerleader from time to time. I'm also grateful to call her a congregant of this community. And throughout the years, I've done my best to maybe even give back a tenth of what she gives to me. She is one of a kind. She is the most beautiful soul I know, on the inside and out. She gives of her heart, she gives of her love, and she gives of her life in everything she does. I know her well enough to know that for probably many parts of her life, she wasn't putting herself first. But I'm amazed to see how she has decided and committed and rooted herself in understanding that the only way she can truly give love to the world is if she gets love to herself. The only way she can truly give fully to the world is if she gets fully to herself. And I'd like to say that in the last 2.5 years, I've seen a magnificent shift in you, Julia. And I know in my heart of hearts of all the amazing things that you've done, and know about everything that's being amplified and magnified so that you can do so many more amazing things going forward. I know that you are just at the beginning of the miracles you're going to put out into the world and the truth that you're going to find within yourself. So I'd like to welcome to the stage, like I said, a great friend of mine, Julia Disney. It's on.
It's on? I didn't sound like it's on. It is on. Okay, you're assuring me it's on. Okay.
We hear you,
And
sis.
you probably could have just given half of my talk, because about 3 years ago was when a huge shift happened in my life. And I've been trying to release things all my life. I've, been in Al-Anon for decades. I've been in therapy. I've done all kinds of things trying to unlearn those lessons that we carry from childhood. The things that I've done because of how I didn't want to be, like Kenya. I have always worked because I've never trusted anybody to take care of me because my parents weren't the best at that. They always saw me as individuals. So I've been married 3 times. I've had countless sweethearts. I have never once moved in with anybody else. I have always provided the home. I've always provided the support. I have always been the caretaker of friends and family. I have, but connections have been important to me because they weren't so steady when I was young. So I've hung on to relationships, friends and lovers, way longer than I should. But something happened a couple of months after my 60th birthday. And my 60th birthday was amazing. It was in 2020, it was the height of the pandemic, August 30th, and my kids threw me a surprise birthday party. And it was wonderful. 50 people showed up.
Wow.
And being who we are, nobody wore masks except for one that worked in a hospital because she had to. Nobody got sick afterwards. There were children that had known my children growing up and grandchildren. There were friends that I had had for a long time. There was a little bit of family, but I was amazed. I would never in my life have thought that 50 people could show up for me. But something shifted in the last few months, and there have been some things not working in my life for a while, and I started releasing in a whole different way. I released a relationship I'd been in for 9 years. It was probably on the outside the healthiest relationship I'd ever been in. On the inside, it probably did as much damage as any of them, and that person would have married me, but we didn't have a relationship that should have ever been in a marriage. We made good roommates. That's not really, I have a bigger dream for my love life than that. Some months after that, I let go of a 10-year friendship. It had gotten, you know, it was kind of dicey from time to time, but we've been really good friends, and I would have called her my best friend. And we went on a trip to see another friend of mine in Mexico, my first out of the country trip. It was a big deal for me. And she was just so incredibly toxic the entire time. And when the trip was done, I managed to have a great time anyway, because I have gotten to where I can detach from somebody else's stuff. So someone can be over here having a hissy fit, but if I'm somewhere having fun, I can still manage to have fun.
Yeah.
That's a huge growth for me, because I'm able to release someone else's stuff. Doesn't have anything to do with me. So I released that, and for the first time in my life, when I walked away from that, I didn't go through a huge grief process. Typically before, when I have had female friendships end, there's been a huge grieving process, maybe even more than for men. And for the first time it wasn't, because it's just like, okay, this line was crossed and I was done. And it wasn't still 100%. Like 6 months later, we got together and we talked things through. And one of her things was she had tripped. And Mexico is kind of strange. There's a lot of little places like this, and even less things where all of a sudden the sidewalk, even in a hallway or something, will just drop, and there's no like warning and you can't see it. So she had fallen flat on her face, and she's older and she got hurt. When we got back together and talked, and I had been a little bit behind her, and I'd been like, oh my gosh, you okay? She asked me if I had pushed her. And to me, that was the end of the friendship, because if you could be my friend for 15 years and even think that I would ever do that to anybody, then it's just like, I got nothing. You know, that you would even think that. And it could be, you know, she thought she deserved it because she was being so awful, but I would never have done that. And so for the first time, I completely walked away and was fine with it. A year later, I walked away from another close relationship, and we still see each other in social circles sometimes, and I keep it at a distance. Pro tip, if you're seeing a counselor and you have a friendship that comes up in counseling as often as work, family, and your love life, that is not a good friendship. But, you know, I thought that I had to be a good friend and keep these connections. And then came with that, when I had been distancing, probably the beginning of that end was, there was a guy that had seen me at an open mic and had been talking to her about me because I didn't make it back for a while because I'm really busy. And she said she might have overshared. So when I finally did get to talk to him a few months later, I said, so what was overshared? He said, well, she like told me you've got a lot of men in your life. Oh, well, that's a good friend. And you know, just for your information, I have a lot of male friends, and I was dating but not involved with anybody at that time. So it's like, that was kind of weird. But I stopped sharing as much about some things. And one day she was having a rough day, and she started sending me lots of texts, and I was working, so I didn't see them. And she said, is the reason you haven't told me the name of who you're going out with because it's this guy that she had a crush on. I'm like, okay, if you think I would do that to you after 20 years of friendship, I don't have anything to say to that either. I'm like, no, and I'm done. And I don't have to hold on to people anymore. I can't control what other people say about me. I can't control what they think about me. But I don't have to show up for it. I don't have to go out of my way for it. I don't have to be grateful for attachments that are not good for me. And that's huge growth for me, is learning to let people go. Interestingly, about the time that happened, people are coming in and out of my life really fast these days. And it's real interesting to watch. I've had entire social workers come and go in this year. And it's not that they've really gone, it's just that we're busy, and we came together through a certain series of things, you know, like in the spring, and I'm the main one that's too busy, but some of them too. I've seen them come together with other people, and groups come in and out, and that's a new concept to me. Because I've always thought it was interesting, like with the 50 people, it's like this huge web where you're all interconnected. But I was sitting there listening to people talk, and it's more like nature. Maybe we're like butterflies or birds or animals, where we come and go, and sometimes we're solitary, and sometimes we're in group, and we can fly our own direction or come in and out, and we have autonomy. And it's not as connected as a string somewhere that can be pulled or tugged or jiggled. It's more like energy can come together and we can affect each other for the good. And that doesn't even take proximity. You know, I have friends that are in other countries now, and friends that are across the country, and I feel just as much joy and connection for them as someone that might be in the room with me. So I've released my need for that. More and more, I'm releasing, I'm pulling into myself. I promise what you said about me was so true, and I would not have assumed that you would notice those things or knew it. I've been telling myself, because I was so busy during those 3 years. I was like busy 7 nights a week, and it wasn't unusual to have 2 or 3 events in a day for a couple of years. It took me 6 months of promising myself I was going to start trying to stay home 3 nights a week. I think I finally got there, but only for the last 2 or 3 weeks. It took all 6 months, and it's actually kind of awesome to be able to start feeling at home in my home, at home in my body, at home with myself again, and maybe for the first time ever. I mean, I didn't have an empty nest since 1981 completely. It was a long time, and now it's like, no, I don't want a roommate. No, I don't want a child or grandchild moving in. No, I don't need any help. I'm letting go of all of that, and I'm coming home to myself. Other people's opinions. And sometimes I feel guilt. I feel like, oh, I need to be at everybody's event and everybody's group and everybody's thing. But I love a ton of people, and I haven't figured out a way to be 3 places at one shift. So Izzy remembers the first time I came, I told her if I come, I've made a conscious choice to be here because I've got a lot of places I could be. And this is a place I do love to be. But I don't beat myself up if I can't be here all the time anymore. I know it'll be here when I'm there and when it's right. So releasing those expectations and releasing the connections in anything other than a free-floating way and coming home to myself, that's really huge. And I hope maybe my story will help some of you that may be going through similar things. And it's an interesting journey.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Give it up one more time for Julie. Together, I release and I let go. Ready? I release and I let go. Your turn.
I release and I let go.
Now I want you to say it with power and with dominion and with understanding and with truth and with vigor and with dominion. I release and I let go.
I release and I let go.
Say it so the people on the opposite side of the world can hear you. Ready? I release and I let go.
I release and I let go.
It is so important that we understand that in order to navigate this thing that we call life, we must release. It's okay to hold on to or to grasp onto or to invite in. I love what Julia said. You know what? I don't have to do all that right now. My time is, I'm coming home to me. I don't need to go anywhere else. I'm coming home to me. I release and I let go. Everything releases and let go. When you think about the snakes that go through the garden, at some point they shed their skin. They release the outside world in which they've been held in order to renew and to grow and to make larger their life. How many of you guys want to make your life larger? How many of you want to make your life better? How many of you want to break free from that which has been holding you in because you're just so ready to burst out? Animals do that all the time. How many of you guys know that when you give up or when you let go, you are actually nurturing the world by taking care of yourself? An example would be a tree. Every year, trees go through a cycle, and we are now in the cycle of autumn or fall. And so the leaves are falling off trees. It's letting go of everything that it was. And sometimes the most beautiful trees are the ones without leaves. And sometimes the most beautiful trees are those who are just allowing the new leaves to bud on them. Sometimes the most beautiful trees are the ones that have been green all year, but now they're filled with colors like yellow and red and brown. So just like everything else in nature, it is important to let go. You are an inlet and an outlet of God. You are an inlet and an outlet of love. You are an inlet and an outlet of light. You are an inlet and an outlet of good. The reason why I say that is because so many of us are so busy manifesting all the things that we want that Heather was saying, sometimes you have to let go to make space of what's already on its way to you. So many of us are holding on to so much that they can't grasp all the beautiful things that are right in front of them or right within them. So remember that you are an inlet and an outlet. What happens to a river when it fills with water but it doesn't disperse? Or more importantly, what happens to an aquarium when you fill it with water but you never filter it? You never allow it to be an inlet and outlet. It gets stagnant, it gets musty, it gets dirty. And sometimes we wonder, why does our life feel stagnant? Why does our life feel dirty? Why does it feel like everything is so murky and mucky in my life? It's because of the fact that right now is the time to release and let go. Let go of the old water and be ready for the new. So whatever it is in your life that's holding you back, whatever it is that is making you feel dank and musty. And I know those words don't sound good when we think about human beings, but I know a lot of people when I was doing counseling that would walk in and say, you know what, my life feels so dark. My life feels so murky. I can't even see where I want to go next. That's what happens when the water gets dirty. That's what happens when the life is not filtered. That is what happens when we stop being an inlet and an outlet of good, an inlet and outlet of love, and an inlet and outlet of light. Amen? Amen. Turn this into a sermon. I got to quit doing that. I want to. Speaking of sermons, I knew where I was going with that. I want to welcome to the stage a guy that I heard speak for the first time last night. Now, he's been speaking all over the place, but when he got on this stage at Unity Southeast in Kansas City, I was shivering in my boots. Because there's one thing that was clear. The moment he walked on stage, he owned the room. The minute he walked on stage, I thought, oh man, this is going to be good. The minute he got on stage, I thought to myself, okay, he's imaginative. He is magnificent. He is confident. He is sure. He is well-planned. But most importantly, at the end of his speech, I realized that he was more than all those things. He was after my job, I think. I was thinking, dang, this guy's good. Here's the thing. I have heard very few people speak and thought, man, if I ever wanted a replacement, I know where to find it. And I have to say that when you got on this stage and you spoke, I realized that you have something to offer that can't be duplicated. You have something to offer that shouldn't be duplicated, because I think it's magnificently yours. And so I want to share with you the amazing, the unduplicated. They're ready for life. They're ready to motivate. They're ready to empower. They're ready to embrace Brian Ashworth.
That was very kind. Thank you so much. I release that. And why is that important? Oftentimes we think about release, and I think we think about releasing all the bad stuff. Right? How many want to release all the bad stuff? How many of you have ever considered releasing the good stuff? Not as many hands. before I get in and talk about release, let's just take a moment and release. How many of you walked in here today with just a little bit of anxiety? I have some right now. My week has been crazy. My schedule has not been what I had planned it to be. And I didn't have the due diligence or the time, and I could give you a ton of excuses, but I just released tonight. And just am just going to speak to you from the heart. And I have had many ideas, and I know Izzy for a long time, and that's what I believe AYPN represents, is a safe space to just kind of be yourself and release the preconceived notions or the ideas of this is how people expect me to show up. I can take off my mask. And it's safe to let people experience me for who I am. And I think that's the true essence of what it means to activate yourself. How many of you feel confident tonight at what you've heard and the speakers that you've heard? How many of you feel encouraged and a little bit more activated now than when you were when you first got here tonight? Amen. So before we really get in, let's just release. I think one of the greatest exercises we can do is just take a deep breath and just release and just feel from your body, just a simple meditative exercise. Taking a deep breath and just release it. Again. And just let your body relax. One more time. Feel better already? Now, I don't know, many of you may not know me, you may have met me in passing. You may have had the opportunity of really connecting and getting to know one another. I see a lot of familiar faces, some that I don't. If you know me well at all, there's one thing that you probably do know about me, and that is I love to fish. And if you are part of my ACA business community, I see some faces, you definitely know that, because every year we have a fish fry. And we serve, I think we had 80 people or so this last couple weeks. And I partner with my church, and there's just a group of us that we just love to fish. But it's important to know what kind of fish you're eating. You don't just eat every fish you catch, right? I mean, would you eat every fish? So we catch crappie and white bass and things like that. We eat the catfish, not on the menu. Bass, not on the menu. Bluegill, not on the menu. Carp, not on the menu. Gar, not on the menu. But when we go fishing, we catch more than just what we're fishing for. And isn't that how life works? We have expectations and we have goals and plans and what we want to accomplish and things that we want to do and achieve. But yet life gets in the way. And sometimes we get experiences or we have experiences or we meet people that quite honestly maybe not meet our expectations or just not really our crowd. Things get in the way. Things don't go as planned. And sometimes we catch things that we're not really expected to catch. What do you do with those things? And sometimes as I'm fishing, there are rules and regulations. If I catch a crappie under 10 inches long, the law says I have to release it. If I am caught with that fish in my live well, I get fined. I have to pay a penalty. And sometimes with certain species of fish, if it's larger than a certain size, I have to release it for conservation. Apply this to our life, because sometimes we catch things that we perceive to be good, but sometimes we're putting things in our live well that are too small for us. And sometimes we catch fish that are so big that we think there's no way, I'm not qualified, I'm not good enough, I can't handle this. What am I going to do with it? And sometimes we release things that we really should embrace, and we embrace things that we really should release. And the wisdom is to know the difference. Would you agree?
Yes.
So I use fishing and I follow Jesus, and I believe Jesus has a heart for fishermen because everybody he called were mostly fishermen. So I believe that there's a special place in Jesus' heart for fishermen. And so I just want to follow the good example. If you're not a fisherman, I'd be happy to take you out and I will teach you. Serious, but kidding, but not kidding. But as I'm thinking about release, I'm thinking about also how to release. My pastor is one of my very best friends and my fishing buddy. We just got back from Lake of the Ozarks on a fishing trip. But I remember a time in the winter, some of the best crappie fishing I've ever done is in the freezing cold of winter. And I remember a time where Jim and I went out and his boat was literally breaking the ice on the lake. And we broke up ice and we're fishing in 30 feet of water. And we're just bundled up. It's cold. It's like 20 degrees cold. And I never considered this. But we would catch fish, and fish have what's called an air bladder. And so, you know, if you've ever been diving, it's at deeper depths, the pressure changes. So fish have air bladders to adjust their body to that pressure. And we're catching fish, and if we reel them up too quickly and pulled them out of the water, when we released them, they died. Now, sometimes it was kind of intriguing to me because we're out there and there's bald eagles in the lake, and the bald eagles would see the fish floating, and it was kind of cool. They would have free dinner. But it occurred to me as I'm thinking about tonight, how we release is vitally important. How many of you have ever gone through a breakup? Are there rules and guidelines or parameters or expectations on how the breakup should occur? Is it okay just to text you and say, this isn't working out for me anymore? Or how about I just ghost you and I don't communicate at all? How we release people in our life is just as important, and sometimes I believe more important, than how we catch them. Would you agree?
Maybe.
And the reason I say that is because the release of our life has everything to do with you. And sometimes I think we deceive ourselves into thinking that how we release has everything to do with them. I'm releasing you because you offended me. That may be the reason you release them, but how did you release them? Was it to pay them back? Was it to hurt them because they hurt you? Or did you release them because you value and honor who you are? You want to respect your own boundaries.
Amen. Amen.
Because how you release and how you behave has everything to do with you, nothing to do with anyone else. So when I think about release, there's a few things I think about. There's a scripture that says, cast all your cares upon the Lord because he cares for you. And as I look in the original language of that verse, and the word cast, it's Randy, would you agree it's a violent word?
Yes.
It's not I catch a fish and I just lay it in the water and gently release. I would not cast my fish back into the lake. And I think there are appropriate times where wisdom, we have to discern how we release. But in this instance, there are times in our life where we have things that we're dealing with that we've got to cast them. And that word cast, imagine we just finished the World Series, go Rangers. I remember Nolan Ryan, Texas Rangers, back in the 90s. He was like the fastest pitcher in the league. And I don't remember what his record was, but I remember watching him at games, and you would see the tickers. They recorded the speed or whatever. They had the radar gun. He was pitching on average 103 miles an hour, sometimes 105. Fast. That's a pretty violent pitch. It's unprecedented. And that's the picture that word gives me when it says cast your cares. It's not just, I'm just going to release something out of my hand. It is, I am throwing this with all my might. I am getting rid of it. I'm discharging this. I am intentionally getting as far away and throwing this as far away from me as possible because it doesn't belong to me. And I think about release. To have a release, there must be a lease. And I think about how many of us are letting people lease or live rent-free in our mind, and we got to evict some people. And how many of us are trying to live rent-free in somebody else's mind, trying to control them? The word lease indicates there's a contract involved. There's a binding, there's a confinement. But release is a setting free. It's a breaking of bondage. It's setting yourself free. Those who have been set free are free indeed. And sometimes it just begins with a simple step of release. I just have an example from my own life. My son, some of you know, I've been pretty open with this. He's struggled with addiction. Heroin and fentanyl. He has been transferred from county jail to county jail because he's had warrants all throughout the state. And he calls me this week. And he says, Dad, I've got court next week and I think they're going to let me out. I can't tell you how many times this has happened. This is like Groundhog Day, and it's so easy for me to fall in the rut of here we go again and judge him based upon every experience I've had. And I've done that. And he calls me and he says, Dad, I've got court this day. I'm probably going to get released, but I won't get out until about 8 o'clock at night. But when I get out, I've got to go check in with this county because they're going to get me into my bed in this treatment program, and I've got to do these things or I'm going to prison for 5 years. But there's nobody to pick me up, and he's in a different state. He said, so I think I'm gonna have my ex-girlfriend come pick me up, and I go, immediately, I didn't catch myself the moment, I said, well, that's smart. Because the last time he was in jail, the girlfriend picked him up, she picked him up, and they went right back to the stuff. And we started all over again. He says, but Dad, I don't have anybody else. And I said, is that true? And he says, but I got to do something different. I think I'm going to have her pick me up. And immediately, I noticed, because I jumped in and I said, well, what you should do, this is what you should do. You want to do something different? Why don't you do something different than what you did before? This is what you should do. And I feel like I'm being a good dad. And then I hang up the phone. And I realized I haven't released. I'm trying to control. And I think sometimes we let our emotions of love, care, concern, it happens so subtly that it can turn into a fear and anxiety for someone else. I love you so much, I want to fix you. And it's control. and it rules our life. And it puts us in bondage. Because now my contentment, my happiness is now predicated upon whether or not this person does what I expect them or tell them to do. And I've given my power away. And I've seen myself do that in relationships. And I caught it with my son. So how would I have handled that differently? And I've thought through this on my drive up here tonight. I thought, you know what I could have done is just simply asked him questions. Intentional questions that lead him to his own conclusion. And then I could have said, son, is it true that you're really alone? Because it seems to me that you called me tonight. Oh, well, no, I can call you. Right. So are you alone? Do you have any other options? And let him kind of come to his own conclusion. And I could gently be releasing him and setting myself free from that expectation. Because the truth is, he's going to do what he's going to do, regardless of what I can't want it more for him than he wants it for himself. And I would venture to say that most of our suffering in this life is because we have put ourselves in the prison cell, locked the door, and yet we're still holding the key. Because we are projecting our own expectations, wants, desires, our unmet needs, unspoken needs, unrealistic expectations, all those things onto other people. We're letting them live rent-free in our minds, and we are intruding and invading the space in theirs, and we aren't owning our own domain. And we become deceived that my control is I love you. And we begin to think that if I don't tell you what to do, then that must mean I don't care about you. And if I don't care about you, then that must mean I don't love you. Well, I can't agree with that. That's not true. So we come all the way back to let me control you. But we don't have that language yet. And I've caught myself doing that. And Randy, forgive me, I use this for effect. But awareness is a bitch. Because once you become aware of something, once you see something, have you ever gotten a text message from a picture from somebody and you were like, whoa, oh, I could have gone my whole life without seeing that. Once you see it, you can't unsee it. But my friends, I promise you, this is the work. This is the work. If you can release and let go of your own expectations on other people, gently releasing them, and you can look within yourself and identify the things that you're holding on to that are hurting you, and you can violently throw them as far away from yourself as you possibly can to set yourself free. Your suffering will stop. A peace that surpasses understanding will flood and guard your heart. And your life will begin to be an experience, possibly one that you've had for the very first time or for a very long time. But let's throw that contract away. Let's stop leasing in other people's life and letting them live rent free in our own head. And start releasing those things. And the more you become aware, that's the work. It's practicing that awareness. It's like working out and you building that muscle. The more you build and work your awareness, the freer you become, the faster you catch it. In your life, it just becomes something that you said at one point thought you'd never have. Because at that point, what you're really saying is I'm living a life, and I think Julie said it, you're living a life of detachment. The moment I attach myself to an outcome, I set myself up for anxiety, bitterness, resentment, and suffering. Let me put this to you in a professional sense. I'm my own LED company. I do commercial lighting. Chuck, we're in the same space. But I do everything in the business. I don't have a business if I don't sell. Sales drives business. It drives revenue, right, Chuck? And when you're first starting out and you don't have a salespeople, a team of salespeople, and you're the one doing it, and you go sell and you get a little flux, jobs come in, then you have to go manage them, you have to manage the contractors, the installation, and if you're doing that, you're not selling, and so it creates this roller coaster of income. And in those valleys that I've experienced, anxiety wells up inside of me. And I go out into the field, and now I'm anxious. Some people call it commission breath. I just got to get a sale. And then I get that one client or customer that I believe is the perfect client, the perfect customer. The numbers are great. He'd be stupid not to sign. And before I even get to the presentation, I've attached an outcome. They're going to do this. I go and I make the presentation. Oh, this looks good. And I get all the signals that they're going to buy. And I automatically attach myself to the deal before they say yes and sign. What happens if they don't? What happens if they say, yes, I'm going to do this, and then the next day I go to get a signature and something happens overnight and they change their mind? The point is we can apply this release in this life of detachment in every area of our life, whether we're in sales, professionally, personally. Begin to ask yourself, what am I attaching myself to in terms of outcomes, expectations, rewards, relationships? It will improve your marriage, your relationships with your kids, and it's the best breath mint you'll ever have in sales, because you won't be breathing commission breath on people. It will set you free. Amen?
Amen.
Thank you for your time. I appreciate that.
Give it up one more time for Brian, the fisherman. We call him the fisherman because the minute you hear him speak, you're hooked. And that just isn't a line. He had me reeling from the beginning. I mean, I took the bait, but
Wow.
I'm milking that.
my next intro was going to be longer, but Brian took half my time, so this is going to be a lot shorter. I want to welcome to the stage someone who is really, really touches my heart. I got a call earlier this week, and it was him on the other line, and we began talking about all the ways that he could serve, all the ways that he could help, all the ways that he could show up in our community and show up in our world. And to me, I think that's what it's all about. I truly believe that that's what it's all about, and I truly believe that this is how Coffee Cup Chuck makes his mark on the world. It's not about I need, I want, I wish, look what I have, look what I've done. It's how can I serve? How can I show up in your life so that you can show up in somebody else's life, and then they can show up in two other people's lives? I know that he's going places. Not that he's going places, but he's already been places. You see, in his mind, he's already made a plan and all the places that he's going to go, and in his mind, he's already there. If there's anything I know about Coffee Cup Chuck, it is that not only has he changed lives, not only is he changing lives, but the future, my friend, the future is golden. But it's not golden for you, it's golden for everyone that crosses your path, because you're gonna make sure that no matter what you do, no matter what you obtain, no matter what you have, that it will be amplified and magnified by how much you give away. And for me, that's Christ-like. For me, that's Jesus-like. For me, when people say, I want to know what God is, I just hope that they cross your path, because I think that they will clearly see what God is. There are people who walk this earth that have never read a Bible, but I promise you, if they just spent a day with you, they'll probably have a great understanding of what's in it. And so I want to share you not only with this community, but I want to share you with the world. So if there is anything, and I told you this on the phone, if there's anything you need, if there's anything I can help you with to magnify your impact, I am so ready to be in your corner. And so I'd like to welcome up to the stage, weighing 204 pounds, 7'8", the fighter, the champion.
First, I'd like to thank my sister and my two brothers for allowing a platform like this to be able to give it to a community of people who need it. I'd like to also thank everyone for showing up tonight, because if you didn't show up tonight, you wouldn't be honoring yourself. You wouldn't be trying to figure out what you're searching for. Today, we are speaking about a subject that I've listened to all the speakers tonight touch on. And I want to share a little bit of the same, but from a different angle. It's a little more emotional, but it's an angle I think we all need to hear. So we're speaking about release. A lot of things that are tied to release are things that we want to release because we've been hurt, damaged, disappointed in some sort of way. And one of the biggest things that a lot of us hold on to that we just can't seem to release is regret. So I want to talk a little bit about regret today, but before I start, I want everyone who has the opportunity to pull out your phones. And I want you to pull up your camera and turn it facing you. And then when you get there, I want you to take a picture of that person that you're looking at. And when you have the picture, I want you to look into the eyes of that picture. I want you to look at that person. I want you to really look in the eyes, so deep into the eyes that you're able to enter them. And I want you to enter those eyes, and I want you to travel to your brain, into your memory. And I want you to bring up every single person that you can think of, every single person that has hurt you, every single one. And when you have that person, when you have those people that you pulled out of your memory, I want you to grab a hold of them, and I want you to take them down to your heart. And I want you to sit there for a minute with them, every single one of them. And then I want to talk a little bit about regret. And I can best do that by sharing a very special person of mine that I held so much pain and regret in my heart. And that's my mom, Bursary Roundtree. She has passed us. She passed away this past October 2nd. And one thing I can say is that woman had a lot of regret. She had a lot of regret. And most of her regret came from her children, me being one of them. The relationship between me and my mom was so rocky. And one of the reasons why it was so rocky was because growing up in the household with my mom, I felt like the unloved child. I felt like the middle child that couldn't get the attention that the firstborn got or the baby. Everything seemed to be centered around trouble when it came to me. So I held on to a lot of animosity with my mom. 4 years ago, she was diagnosed with COPD. A lot of people might not understand what COPD is, but it restricts your breathing. Not only does it restrict your breathing, it starts breaking down all of your other organs. So 4 years, and everything just started deteriorating fast. She lived in Omaha, Nebraska. And being in a community where she spent most of her life and not being able to get the attention that she needed from her family members down there, me and my older brother, we had to bring her down to Kansas City because we knew that this condition that she had was going to eventually lead her to the same exact place we all got to end up one day. 2 years ago, we were able to move her here, not understanding how bad all of her conditions were. We took on this job of taking care of my mom. I had a lot of animosity still. She beat me. She chose us over other men, her children. She had 2 groups of us. Me and my brother Curtis and my brother Rocky were the first 3. And then years after we were born and off being raised, she had 3 more younger ones. Those 3 younger ones didn't get the non-drug addict mom. We got that mom. They got the drug addict mom. So they missed out on a whole bunch of qualities that my mom had before. They didn't treat my mom like we treated my mom. My mom got them thrown in foster homes because of her drug addicts. So there was a lot of resentment in those children. So let's fast forward a little bit. She's dying, and she knows she's dying. We find out that it's grave. It's not what we thought it was. She doesn't have all the time to live that we thought she had. So now we have to come up with a plan of how we're going to handle this and how we're going to help her handle it and deal with it. So my brother was responsible for preparing my mom for death. Think about that, y'all. You literally got to prepare your mom to die. That's pretty crazy. My brother kept it to a real though. He stayed real. Mom, you're dying. This is why you're dying. You are dying because you did your body wrong. And from that point, he had to explain every time one of her lungs or one of her kidney or her heart, anytime something went out of whack, he had to tell her, Mom, this is why it's happening. Don't worry. These are the meds that you have to take. This is why you have to take the med. He had it all down to a science. He was the firstborn. No matter what, he had to put up with everything all her life. Me, on the other hand, I wasn't always there. I was in jail. You know, I was in other cities, other states. My brother, he never left. So he knew my mom in and out. So he felt it was okay for me to prepare this woman for death. And I'm saying the whole time, you tripping, bro. You are summoning this death up for her. He's like, no, I'm preparing her for death. I need you to do me a favor because you're the talker. You're the one who can speak sense. I need you to prepare her for death too. I need you to help her get rid of her regrets. Because, bro, she got a lot of them. She got to release this stuff. She got to let it go. Before she leaves this planet, we got to help her figure that out. Because it's people that ain't coming to see her. It's people that ain't showing how much they really care for her because they have their own lives to live. And she doesn't understand that. She can't control that situation or that outcome for them. She can only control what she has. So, as hard as this job is to do, I had to take this job on and I had to prepare her for it. I had to prepare her to release her regrets. I had to prepare her to forgive. To forgive. And this woman, I'm talking about, this woman ain't no joke. A lot of people didn't come around because of some of the things that she did. So, a person that has animosity with his mom, who was beat by his mom, who felt second to none by his mom, had to prepare his mom to release some stuff before she passed on. How the hell do I do that if I haven't released my stuff? How? How is it possible? So what my brother actually did is he prepared me to release some stuff that I needed to release for her. And what helped me accomplish this was a book, an autobiography book that I'm writing about my own life, which triggered me asking questions, so many questions to family members and her friends. And I started figuring out during these questions that there were parts about my mom that I didn't know because I was not always part of her life. There was a whole section of her life that I wasn't even born. And these were the moments that helped create the woman that she became. These were all her experiences that I never even was around to see. So this mom that was so abusive, that was so full of anger, that was so controlling, she developed all of these habits because of the way she was raised, her own experiences, her life, not mine. And watching her die, at first, I wanted to sit there and just watch her and say, see, this is what I'm saying. This is what you deserve all that time. You did all of this stuff to me. Now you got to face it. Now you got to face, this is your regret pool now. Now you're passing away, and what do you have to look at? Instead of doing that, I got to see something way more remarkable. I got to see a hard woman change. 2 months, she went from this hardcore woman to this bittersweet lady, just bittersweet, ready to accept. But the crazy thing about it is I had to be mean and tell her the truth about things that she didn't want to hear, so she could get an understanding of why people are responding to her the way they are. Mom, you gave them something and they responded to it. You can't control how they feel about that. You have to let them do that. But what you can do is control you. You can control the understanding. And that understanding is there's a cause and effect, Mom. So as long as you can understand in your heart and forgive you for the things that you did to cause this response from them, you're clearing yourself, Mom, because that's the best you can do. That is the best you can do. The first person and the only way you can release any regret that you have is you have to first forgive yourself. You have to. And being able to forgive her, being able to want to be in that room with her, being able to want to sit there and watch her go through this and hold her hand saying, Mom, I'm here. I was able to do that because I released everything I needed to release that made me upset with her, that made me upset of not understanding why she was this person that she was. You know, and it's crazy that I'm sitting up here thinking about it now because this woman, man, like I said, she was not an easy woman to get along with. And to see her at her last moment, to see her pass away regret-free with a smile on her face. The last time I got to see my mom, the very last time I got to see my mom, I knew walking down that hall that I would see her again. I just knew I would be able to see her again. But when I found out that I wasn't able to see her again, I was able to hold on to the one thing that keeps me strong enough to not break down and cry up here right now. And that's, I did the job that I needed to do beside her. I helped her release some of the things that was stopping her from dying because this woman would not pass away. She literally every day, she had to be hooked up to an EPAP machine, and this EPAP machine forces air into you and lets it out, and forces air into you and lets it out. And that's pain. But she kept doing that for one reason, because she had regrets. She did not want to die with those regrets on her chest. So she was waiting for certain people to show up so she can say she's sorry. She never got the opportunity to do that. She never did. But I had to prepare her for the thing that sent her off without having to need it. Because Mom, listen, you can forgive them. You can forgive them from right here. But the only way you can do that is to forgive yourself. So do me a favor, people. Those people sitting on your heart right now, all those people sitting there, I want you to absorb them into your heart. I want you to take them in there. And I want you to understand that you can't control the things that have happened already. They've already happened. You can't. But what you can control is what you release. So release them. Because when you release them, you release yourself. Thank you, people.
Give it up one more time for Chuck Doyle. And we have made our way through all the speakers tonight. I'd like to go back to the beginning. At the beginning of this evening, I said a miracle was going to happen if you let it. So you can ask yourself right now, has something within me changed? Is something different now than it was when I first walked in? And if it isn't, it's okay, because you still got time. No one said the miracle was going to happen in an instant. The one thing I know is that there is no time and there is no space in spirit. So the time will come. There's going to be sometime this evening or sometime in the morning or sometime next week, and you're going to go, oh, I get it. I get why I went to Unity Southeast to the Activate Your Power Now seminar, because I was supposed to learn this, or I was supposed to receive that. But tonight is about elimination. Tonight is about release. So maybe it wasn't that you were supposed to receive anything. Maybe it was supposed to be because you were supposed to give away the knowledge you got here tonight. Maybe the miracle wasn't necessarily for you. So when I promised you a miracle, maybe you are the miracle for someone else you're going to walk by or meet this week. Someone is going to come to you this week and they're going to say, you know what, I need some advice. Or, you know, I was thinking about something and I wanted to just get your opinion on it. And know that something that happened here tonight is not something that you were supposed to hold on to. It's something you were supposed to share or give away. So say with me, I am ready to share.
I am ready to share.
I am ready to give away.
I am ready to give away.
All the love,
All the love,
all the light,
all the light,
all the hope,
all the hope,
all the faith
all the faith
that has been given to me.
that has been given to me.
Because I know I can't outgive God.
Never can outgive God.
Amen?
Amen.
Amen. Ashe.
Ashe.
Aho.
Aho.
Yes, Spirit, yes.
Yes, Spirit, yes.
And so it is. Thank you for coming. Have a beautiful evening. Have a beautiful week. And have a beautiful life. Because that's what it's all about. Thank you.